How's it going, everybody? It's Joe Low Fox. This is my channel where I talk about anime, video games, cartoons, most notably Sonic and Ninja Turtles. And today I'm here to talk about some Batman. Yep. Some people kind of requested me to want to talk about more DC stuff, and I still got a lot of stuff going that I just want to get off my chest. And that's about the whole Batman stuff. I want to talk about a little Batman fatigue, and also why do I like the character and everything. I've been reading some Batman comics, like a graphic novel that I just got that featured Batman Year 1 and Batman Year 2 and stuff. I haven't really read Year 2 yet, but I finished Year 1 and a few other Batman storylines and stuff within that graphic novel. So I'm going to just talk about, like, what do I like about the character, and then I'm going to just talk about why I'm kind of just, a little fatigued of Batman. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to tell you about my personal history about how I've come to know Batman as a character. Now, Batman and Robin were the first DC superheroes I was introduced to when I was in daycare. This was due to the reruns and the old 4-episode long DVD or VHS collections of Batman the Animated Series and even Batman Beyond. Even the original movies and the old Adam West show was like my grandparents and my parents' generation that had exposed me to those movies and shows. Then my generational cartoons were like Justice League Unlimited, The Batman 2004 series, the Batman Brave and Bold, Beware the Batman, while my generational movies were things like the Dark Knight trilogy and the DCU. Not to mention the video games like Lego and the Arkham series and the animated movies. And for those reasonings, a lot of us had kind of have a strong attachment to the character to the point where he eclipses any DC superhero and people's interest in them mostly. Because you can't really have a top 10 favorite DC superhero, and it's nothing but Batman. Batman, Harley Quinn, Batman. Honestly, I'm not a fan of the kind of like Batman that continues to like really go behind his friends' backs to just plot against them, program hypnotic suggestions into his sons' heads to in fear of them, but turning on him even though they're street level characters. But okay, or having some ridiculous plot armor where it just makes no sense, or just constant dilemmas that he can't break his no-kill rule, and this is supposed to be deep thinking and stuff like that, and it kind of got old after a while, so yeah, etc. That's just how I feel. What I do like about Batman, or about Bruce Wayne as a character, is his mature, reserved, charitable, idealistic, and he's deductive. I kind of miss the days where he was just like, he had hobbies like basketball, he cared about his community, and he took pride in his family name and wealth, where he at least felt like a character and grew from his mistakes in the shows and the movies I watched. And the more we keep like regressing to younger Bruce Wayne or younger Batman and forgetting what makes him a hero, the more we like shelf the Bat family members and lose the plot.
When I found you in that jail, you were lost. But I believed in you. I took away your fear, and I showed you a path. You are my greatest student. It should be you standing by my side, saving the world.
I'll be standing where I belong. Between you and the people of Gotham.
No one can save Gotham. When a forest grows too wild, a purging fire is inevitable and natural. Tomorrow, the world will watch in horror as its greatest city destroys itself. The movement back to harmony will be unstoppable this time.
You attacked Gotham before.
Of course. Over the ages, our weapons have grown more sophisticated. With Gotham, we tried a new one, economics. But we underestimated certain of Gotham's citizens, such as your parents. Gunned down by one of the very people they were trying to help. Create enough hunger and everyone becomes a criminal. Their deaths galvanized the city into saving itself, and Gotham has limped on ever since. We are back to finish the job. And this time, no misguided idealists will get in the way. Like your father, you lack the courage to do all that is necessary. If someone stands in the way of true justice, you simply walk up behind them and stab them in the heart.
To me, Batman's a very overrated superhero, and people overestimate his importance as solely carrying the DC universe or being the mascot of the DC universe when he's really not. Because the thing about Batman is he's been stagnant and outdone before since his creation back in the 1939. Thanks to the popularity of the Adam West show, though, back in the 60s, Batman became very mainstream. And because of the show, we also got Catwoman back, which, even though Catwoman was established in the 1940s, during the times they kind of found the character to be problematic and stuff like that. So they kind of shelved her and stuff in between her first appearances in the 50s, and didn't bring her back until probably the late 60s or whatever as a love interest for Batman. And then as for Barbara Gordon and stuff, we got Barbara Gordon thanks to the Adam West show as well, where they introduced Commissioner Gordon to have a daughter and stuff like that, and she ended up becoming Batgirl, etc. But people still thought that superheroes and stuff in general, including Batman, was silly and goofy until we got to the 1989 movie. And thanks to the success of the Tim Burton movie and stuff, we actually got the DCAU, and then we also got the Arkham games. But as I mentioned before, Batman has been outperformed in the past by such things like even the Legions of Superheroes back in the 60s. That was a very popular comic book for the time. Teen Titans in the 80s and stuff. Teen Titans was really big back in the 80s and stuff, as far as comic books and stuff goes, because how can you not like a group of teenage superheroes and stuff where they have some new and fresh ideas and stuff like Cyborg, Starfire, Raven, Beast Boy, Donna Troy, Wally West, Kid Flash, Arsenal, Aqualad, all that stuff. Of course, Nightwing himself. Yeah, you had all that stuff going. Or even Captain Marvel going back to the 1940s. He was actually outperforming both Batman and Superman. But yeah. And the only reason that DC really pushes Batman so much is because he outsells, or he sells easily. And people, even the writers, are just reluctant to step away from Batman for a while and just try try things outside of just Gotham. That's why we get spin-offs like the Penguin, Two-Face, Poison Ivy, Joker, Harley Quinn, or even Clayface. They're talking about doing a Clayface movie, as we all know. And then, we have spin-offs and I'm not saying all that stuff is bad. Penguin, I heard, was really great. Two-Face and Poison Ivy, I don't know why they have solo comics of all characters. But you probably could have just given it to somebody else. Of course, we had the 2 Joker movies and stuff. One of them made $1 billion, which was cool, but the second one was kind of alright, it kind of ruined the series. I'm pretty sure we're all tired of that Harley Quinn show. We all know that. And then, I don't know why you're giving Clayface a movie before Batman inside the new DCU, but okay. But anyways, spin-offs that really, to me, serve no purpose, no real purpose, but to just deep dive into, damage people's psyches and stuff, which I know that's an interesting aspect about most Batman villains that we like. But when that time and energy can really go into other characters and stuff, if you really wanted to explore those type of characters with trauma, but have good in them, then there's characters like Martian Manhunter, Donna Troy, Kyle Rayner, Captain Atom, Firestorm, etc. And while some characters like Black Lightning, Stargirl, Flash, Green Arrow have actually gotten some kind of live action show or some limelight or some kind of content, there's almost no follow-up after that or anything in relation to those characters getting promoted, unless it's some kind of team-based stuff Injustice, Justice League Heroes, DC Universe Online, even though I'm not saying all that stuff is bad, but that's the only times you'll probably see them in and stuff or get promoted versus them getting their own solo kind of thing. And not even at least a few animated movies, to say the least, at their own expense. Usually Batman has the most, of course. Even this year, where he had I think 2 animated movies and stuff that they've put out of Batman that were just Elseworld stories, and one of them was an Aztec Batman, which was also pretty problematic, even though DC Comics has a character called the Aztec, but okay. Then of course there's the terrible looking Bat Fam show or whatever that started off as Merry Little Christmas Batman or whatever, and then they just turned it into a show. You're telling me you couldn't just let's not do Batman and focus on another superhero and put some more time and effort into the animation and stuff, and put that superhero over. But yeah, again, that's just what I'm saying though. All that time and all that resources really could just go into something else or be dedicated to something, And even Wonder Woman, she's a part of the Trinity and stuff along with Batman and Superman. and she only gets like what, 2 animated movies, 2 live-action movies, and she hasn't really had a show since the 1970s, and has never had her own cartoon. So it's kind of like, dang, like I know DC wants to be progressive and all that stuff, but how are you going to be progressive if you're not even treating the one of your best female characters with some kind of dignity and respect? So just hypocrisy right there, and also just like that's a little bit unfair, and you kind of see why the DC comics is kind of like a little bit in shambles right now. Meanwhile, there's 11 main Batman cartoons, 35 animated Batman movies, and 8 solo movies. After all that, we kind of need a break from Batman content for a while, because I'm pretty sure most people's favorite DC movies are nothing but just mostly Batman movies. And for the other stuff outside of that, it's either divisive, overhated, obscure, or a hit or miss. Injustice is a pretty good example of what I mean by there being a favoritism for Batman. Like, the premise is the Joker, Batman's arch nemesis, tricks Superman into killing his wife and nuking Metropolis, which drives him into a descent by becoming a tyrannical ruler. And not only does Superman become a villain, but so did Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Barry Allen, Billy Batson, Aquaman, Cyborg, Raven, and Damian Wayne. Batman, despite everything, is the only hero out of the Trinity, no less, who remains true to himself, despite his supers involving shooting his opponents and hitting them with either the Batmobile or the Batwing. He also gets 2 extra chapters, 3 as an optional, 1 inside Injustice 2 in both stories, and most of his adjacent characters like Nightwing, Red Hood, Damian Wayne, Bane, Joker, Harley Quinn, Mr. Freeze, Deadshot, Poison Ivy, Catwoman, Batgirl, and Scarecrow on the roster than any other hero, or at least get like maybe 1 or 2 at best. And outside of everyone else, I mean, Superman would be the second, who has like Lex Luthor, Darkseid, Doomsday, Lobo, Brainiac, and Supergirl. But my point is, Batman gets more attention, and it sacrifices other characters people don't know all that much about, which is kind of why Marvel is outdoing DC in the mainstream, because they like promote their characters and stuff, outside of just Spider-Man, for example, since he's their golden goose just as much as Batman is. If Marvel solely relied on Spider-Man, then Iron Man, Thor, Black Panther, or other villains like Loki, Thanos, etc. wouldn't be popular without any effort. I get people like Absolute Batman and Robert Pattinson Batman, even though I prefer Ben Affleck, since I think Robert Pattinson's over the top.
Out of your goddamn mind. What? This is all in your head. You're sick. Twisted. How can you say that? You think you'll be remembered? You're a pathetic psychopath. Begging for attention. You're gonna die alone. No, no. A nobody. No! This is not how this was supposed to go. I had it all planned out.
But since people like that stuff, continue that, but cut back on the cartoons, the animated movies, the games. If people like need something so bad, they can just fall back on the old stuff that came before it, because Batman isn't growing anymore as a character or as a story. He's not going through anything because he's been through everything at this point. And the major stories have devolved into Batman just stopping the next crime boss of Gotham, whether it's Joker, Penguin, Black Mask, Bane, even Catwoman, who not too long ago, like I think they did a story, I think it was Chip Zdarsky or somebody, they did a story where Catwoman was training other criminals or training other guys to become thieves, and basically I don't know, it was a whole organized crime kind of thing. It was kind of dumb, but whatever. So that's why people are getting sick and tired of Batman or Batman fatigue. For me, I would definitely be fine with like a Ben Affleck Batman movie, a Batman Beyond movie, or a spinoff of any of Batman's sidekicks, mainly the Robins, whether it be, of course, except for like Damian Wayne, Stephanie Brown, or Carrie Kelly, but every other Robin, like Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, I'm fine with them getting, like a spin-off show or something like that. That would be pretty cool. And after that, we just need a break from Batman for maybe like 5 years of like no content of Batman. DC can definitely thrive without it, and Batman's comeback would definitely feel a lot more legit and genuine, kind of like how Superman had returned after his absence for so long inside the movies and cinema and stuff, like how he did inside Man of Steel, inside Justice League, inside Black Adam, and even inside this recent Superman movie and stuff. People were just happy to just see the character back, just in general. So I think you can recapture that same feeling with Batman. But these are just my thoughts. Tell me what you guys think down below. Again, I don't hate Batman as a character. I'm just kind of getting sick and tired of him. It is what it is. But anyways, this is the John Lowe Fox. I'm out. Peace, and until we meet again.